Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. Now, this is a very small channel on YouTube. As of this date, I only have 52 subscribers, but, a very, very active group of people have been tuning in to these uploads and have been leaving a lot of comments. Mostly, this channel talks about true crime, and the other sort of subtopic is the upcoming presidential election in 2020, and I have a handful of other videos and podcast segments on various things, anything that comes to mind, really. But one of the nice things about being able to run a true crime channel is that you get to participate in a lot of discussions with a lot of people. So I thought that once a week I would just do a sort of readout and we can do a little question and answer session, and I will read a couple highlighted comments that I have found, going through some of the videos. So, open call, please feel free to just keep commenting. If you have anything to say at all about any videos on this channel, Black Box Radio, go for it. And if you have anything you would like to ask, any challenges related to the cases, please say something. Because, I love expanding the discussions, and one more big thank you to everyone who has helped participate in the discussions. Our first question comes from a user just named Caroline. This was regarding the case of O.J. Simpson. Caroline is addressing a comment that I made, and she says, I made a comment about how O.J. Simpson has always been very adamant from the beginning that he believed that his wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were murdered by multiple attackers. This is even mentioned in his book, If I Did It, Here's How It Happened. There are multiple people described with that. And there is O.J. in a hypothetical situation along with somebody named Charlie. And the Judith Regan interview, which I did an upload on as well, tries to say that OJ and Charlie are the same person. They're trying to say that there is no second person, but I think that a lot of people on the internet are insinuating that there is definitely a second person involved with the O.J. Simpson case. Even if it is just a getaway driver, even if it's just someone else who participated, not necessarily involved with the actual murdering, but definitely a conspirator, an accomplice, if you will. So, but Caroline asked the question, O.J. Simpson is a liar and a sociopath. Why put any value in anything he says? Well, to Caroline, I don't disagree that O.J. Simpson is an adamant liar. I don't disagree that he is a sociopath. Why put value in anything that he says? It's that whole sort of idea that if somebody talks for long enough, they will let some things slip away. They will let some things, out. And I believe, my own personal feeling is, because O.J. Simpson was so adamant from the beginning that there were multiple attackers, that's almost like his way of trying to get the cameras away from him and sort of try to send the reporters down this rabbit hole, if you will. I mean, he's been very clear even in the 90s. He said one person did not do these murders. There were multiple attackers involved. I believe he is kind of, confessing something, if you will. It's sort of his way of trying to be sneaky and manipulative. That's just my own personal feeling. There is an enormous amount of people, not only on the internet, but, associated with the documentaries and associated with old witness statements that say that there are multiple attackers involved with this. It's just that thing. If somebody talks long enough, they give stuff away. If somebody talks long enough, they let the truth come out. And we even do have a witness who says that they saw two people in the white Bronco drive past the night of the murders. And that person was given a lie detector test in the Martin Sheen produced documentary exploring the Jason Simpson murder theory. And that person passed. So that's just sort of my very, very long-winded response to that question. Yeah, I believe if somebody talks for long enough, the truth might come out, and OJ has been very consistent with that one detail. Okay, our next question comes to somebody called Off the Record, who has a sort of a challenge about the Maura Murray case. And this person is saying about some comments that I made addressing the possibility, did Maura Murray die in the woods? After Maura Murray disappeared, did she go into the woods and freeze to death and succumb to the elements? Well, I was discussing that one. This person, who just has the name Off the Record, why would Maura Murray enter the forest when it is pitch black and you can't even see your hand in front of your face? Why would anyone ever enter the forest in that way? Going to be assuming that everyone is familiar with a lot of the details of the Maura Murray case. With that particular one, I think this guy raised an absolute excellent point. In the exact video that he's talking about, I mentioned two possibilities that I think we've narrowed it down to, that I think the whole internet has narrowed it down to, all the armchair detectives, that either Maura Murray passed away in the woods, succumbing to the elements, and also as a result of alcohol intoxication, because we believe she had a bottle of alcohol with her when she disappeared in 2004. Or the other possibility is that she got in somebody's car and she was murdered by what Fred Murray called a dirtbag on Route 112. Why would Maura Murray enter the woods if it was so dark that she couldn't see a hand in front of her face? What would be someone's instinct or motivation to do that? Well, I'm going to say that you raise an absolutely excellent point, and that most definitely pushes me toward the theory that Maura Murray got in somebody's car and she was murdered and she became the victim of foul play, that this was not an accidental death of somebody freezing to death. I'm definitely leaning toward that way now. What people were trying to argue or insinuate or theorize, if you will, why Maura Murray would enter the woods if it was so dark, and what kind of instinctive response would push somebody to walk into the forest. Well, they think that she was just giving up, that she was just having a nervous breakdown. They think that she was drinking alcohol. They think she wasn't thinking properly, and she had just reached her breaking point, and maybe she just sort of sat down, put her back against a tree, and just started drinking Kahlua until she froze to death. Well, that is a theory that has gone around, and it's actually received a lot of support from a lot of different people. Now, that's sort of, we've talked about Maura Murray. And going on to our next one is about the case of Kyron Hormon. Now, this is a rather lesser-known case compared to O.J. Simpson or Maura Murray, definitely compared to O.J. Simpson. Kyron Hormon was a boy who disappeared in 2010 in Washington State in America, in the United States of America. If you didn't know that Washington State was in the USA, pardonnez-moi. Now, this is a lesser-known case, so I would highly encourage anyone who is interested in unsolved mysteries and true crime to look into the case of Kyron Hormon. Because before I read off the question, I would just say that this is one that I reviewed for about 4 days, non-stop, just going through news reports and reading articles and looking at what other people had to say. And I couldn't achieve any sort of viable theory after 4 days. I was just I'm not going down any direction, After about 3 days of reviewing a case, maybe you start to get a feeling about this is what happened. I was just lost. I was just I had to spend, more days investigating before I could even start to feel like I had a warm lead with the case of Kyron Hormon, because there's just so many things that are peculiar about it. Kyron Hormon was, as we said, a student who disappeared from his elementary school in Washington State in 2010, and the short story is they believe that his stepmother, Terry Hormon, was involved with this. But one of the things is, he was last seen at 9 a.m., all right? This is a boy in an elementary school who was last seen at 9 a.m. Class began at 10 a.m. and he was not present. We have that. His mother, stepmother rather, Terry Hormon is the stepmother, not the biological mother. At 1 p.m. in the afternoon, she posted photos of his science project on Facebook. And someone says that this is a red flag. This person's name is What's Going On TV. I repeat, that's their YouTube name. What's Going On TV. They say a challenge as well. People do not normally post photos 4 hours after the event. If people take photos of their children, they post them on Facebook immediately. That's what their challenge is in the case of Kyron Hormon. And I just have to say about that one, that's definitely too micromanaged. I don't have kids, so I don't take photos of anyone's children. But when I take photos of stuff, I don't post it on Facebook immediately. I normally wait, several hours. And not to mention, Terry Hormon, the stepmother, would have taken photos of him and then gotten into her car, and she first drove to a supermarket to go to a pharmacy. She has other things going on. Not to mention, she had a baby with her at the time, and the baby is seen on camera, even at two of the supermarkets that she visited. So I definitely think that is way too micromanaged to say that is any sort of a kind of red flag that someone might be implicated in a crime because they didn't post photos of their kid's science project, immediately. Like, trying to say she takes a photo at 9 o'clock, why didn't she post it by 9:15? We can't really entertain that type of thinking because it's just too precise. It's just too narrow, rather. It's just not everyone is going to think exactly the way we think. And, people aren't always going to be the same, even if it's normal. I've said on this channel before, famous words you've heard from me, being weird is not a crime. Being different is not a crime. And that's just really holds a lot of people back. Like, when you see a lot of interviews with people who are connected to a true crime case, maybe you can even think of one right now that would come to mind. Someone who just gives really bizarre answers. Talk about, Jack McCulloch and the murder of Maria Ridulph. Talk about Sean Jenkins and the murder of Billy Joe Jenkins. People, who just give very, very kind of slimy answers, but you don't necessarily know what happened. And, sometimes people are innocent. Sometimes they're guilty and your instincts are right on. But other times, someone's just being weird. Jack McCulloch, from the case of Maria Ridulph, was exonerated. And there are 2 books about that sort of detail the exoneration. One is called Piggyback, and the other is Footprints in the Snow. And those books were actually used by the district attorney as evidence that this guy could not have done it, even though he's a very, very weird individual. And that might be a case that I could actually do an upload on here, because I sort of might even have something to say about the murder of Maria Ridulph, a sort of new perspective. But anyway, those are the 3 comments that I've talked about. If you have any questions at all about any of the true crime cases, leave a comment on any of the videos here on this channel, Black Box Radio. This is a Black Box podcast, and let's expand the discussion. And I'm hoping once a week we can do some sort of question and answers. Hopefully. I've been posting a little more frequently. Okay, well, I'd just like to say again, I love hearing all your comments. Say absolutely anything you want about anything related to this channel, and talk to you next time.